You don't lose money slowly. You lose it in a moment you never notice. Right after you get paid. Before a single bill is due. Before anything is spent. Your future quietly changes direction, and almost no one realizes when it happens. The moment your paycheck hits your bank account, something dangerous happens. Not to your money. To your mind. You have about 15 seconds before your brain quietly starts spending money you haven't touched, moved, or even looked at yet. Nothing has left your account. But in your head, the money is already gone. You're not thinking in numbers. You're thinking in feelings. Relief. Reward. I made it through another pay period. I deserve this. And that's the trap. Because in those first few seconds, your brain doesn't see your paycheck as a tool. It sees it as permission. Permission to loosen up. Permission to stop being careful. Permission to finally buy the thing you've been justifying in the background of your mind for weeks. Most people think the reason they feel broke is because they don't make enough money. That's not it. The real reason is that they lose control before they even start. They hand the steering wheel to impulse the second the money arrives. Then spend the rest of the month reacting, adjusting, and wondering where everything went wrong. And the scariest part? It all happens automatically. Silently. Without you noticing. This is quietly broke, and if that phrase makes you uncomfortable, it's probably because it's hitting closer to home than you'd like to admit. The difference between staying stuck and building real financial stability isn't your income, your intelligence, or how hard you work. It's what you do in the first 15 seconds. If you lose that moment, you spend the next 30 days chasing your own money. If you control it, everything else starts to fall into place. Before we go any further, if this kind of perspective resonates with you and you want more videos that challenge how you think about money, make sure you subscribe to Quietly Broke. It's the best way to support the channel and help us keep making content that actually changes how people live. Now, here's a quick question for you, and I want you to answer honestly in the comments. When your paycheck hits your account, what happens first? A. You already know exactly where every dollar is going. B. You feel relief, and figure it out later. Comment A or B below. If the first 15 seconds decide the direction, the next question is why so many people end up in the same place anyway. Because here's the truth most people never slow down long enough to see. You don't feel broke because you're irresponsible, lazy, or bad with money. You feel broke because you're operating inside a system you never consciously chose. Most of the time, you don't actually manage your money. You observe it. You notice that rent gets paid. You notice groceries show up. You notice subscriptions renew, balances change, and somehow the month keeps moving forward. But you're not directing anything. You're reacting. It feels like your money has a life of its own, and you're just along for the ride. And when you check your account near the end of the month and feel that familiar tightness in your chest, you ask the same question again. How did this happen? What's dangerous about this isn't the confusion. It's how normal it feels. Most people live in a constant state of low-grade financial uncertainty. Not crisis mode, but never fully calm either. Just enough stress to keep you alert, but not enough to force a real change. So you adapt, you adjust, you hope next month will be different. And then next month looks exactly the same. This is where the biggest myth in personal finance quietly destroys progress. The idea that you'll save whatever is left over. Leftover money assumes intention. Leftover money assumes restraint. Leftover money assumes life cooperates. It doesn't. Expenses expand. Wants disguise themselves as needs. Convenience feels harmless in the moment. And by the time you think about saving, the decision has already been made for you. That's why income alone doesn't fix this. In fact, higher income often makes it worse. More money doesn't create clarity. It creates noise. More options. More justifications. More ways to spend without immediately feeling the consequences. So you might earn more than you ever have before and still feel like you're barely holding things together. Because nothing about how you handle money has actually changed, only the scale. At some point, this stops being about dollars and starts being about structure. Relying on motivation feels productive, but it's unreliable. Relying on willpower feels responsible, but it's exhausting. Life will eventually drain both. The people who get ahead aren't more disciplined than you. They're not more enlightened. They're not constantly making better choices. They've simply removed choice from the equation. They don't wait to see how the month unfolds before deciding what to do with their money. They decide first, then let the month adapt around that decision. And that shift, from reacting to designing, is where everything begins to change. Once you stop reacting and start designing, one thing becomes immediately clear. Before you can grow anything, you have to stabilize what's already there. This is the part almost everyone wants to skip. Not because it's complicated, but because it forces honesty. Real financial control doesn't start with investing, side hustles, or big future goals. It starts with understanding what it actually costs for you to exist. Stripped of comfort, habit, and justification, you need to know how much of your take-home pay goes to true necessities. Not things you're used to paying for. Not things that make life more enjoyable. Not things that feel inconvenient to give up. Just the basics: housing, food that keeps you alive, essential transportation, utilities, healthcare. That number matters more than almost anything else, because it tells you whether your financial stress is structural or behavioral. As a general rule, if more than about 60% of your take-home pay is going toward true necessities, you're walking a tightrope. One surprise expense, one disruption, one bad month can knock everything off balance. And here's where people get uncomfortable. When you actually break this down, a lot of things you've been calling needs quietly reveal themselves as wants. The expensive car payment that feels unavoidable. The convenient spending that saves time but drains cash. The recurring charges you stopped questioning years ago. None of this makes you reckless. It makes you human. But if you never separate what you truly need from what you've normalized, your money will always feel tight no matter how much you earn. You'll keep treating symptoms without addressing the structure underneath. Once you know this number, you know where your margin is. And margin is where freedom begins. The next piece of the foundation is even less exciting. And even more important. Your credit. Your credit score isn't a judgment of your character. It's not a badge of success. It's a tool the system uses to decide how risky you are to deal with. And the system is unforgiving. You can do 99 things right and still take serious damage from one missed payment. Not because you're a bad person, but because the rules are designed that way. This is why the goal at this stage isn't perfection. It's consistency. You don't need to eliminate all debt immediately. You don't need to feel ahead. You just need to make every minimum payment on time. Every time. That single habit protects your options. It keeps interest rates lower. It keeps doors open. It prevents small mistakes from becoming long-term setbacks. Think of it like reinforcing the foundation of a house. No one compliments it. No one sees it. But if it cracks, everything above it becomes unstable. This phase doesn't make you feel rich. It makes you feel grounded. And that's the point. Because once your necessities are clearly defined and your financial reputation is protected, you stop playing defense. You stop patching leaks. You create a base strong enough to actually build something on top of it. Without this foundation, growth is fragile. With it, growth becomes inevitable. Once that foundation is solid, something subtle but powerful begins to shift. You stop bracing for impact. And you start thinking beyond the next problem. This is the point where most people finally realize they've been living in survival mode without calling it that. When you don't have a buffer, every unexpected expense feels personal. A car repair isn't just inconvenient. It's destabilizing. A medical bill doesn't just cost money. It costs sleep. Even small disruptions trigger anxiety. Because there's no margin to absorb them. That's why the next step isn't about growth yet. It's about safety. An emergency fund isn't exciting. It won't impress anyone. It doesn't make for great screenshots or bold claims. But it quietly changes how you experience life. 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. Sitting in a boring, liquid savings account. Not invested. Not locked away. Not optimized for returns. Just available. This money isn't there to make you richer. It's there to keep you from making desperate decisions when life gets unpredictable. And life will get unpredictable. That's not a possibility. It's a guarantee. When you have this buffer, your nervous system relaxes. You stop checking your account out of fear. You walk into work knowing that if something goes wrong, you have time. Time to think. Time to choose. Time to respond instead of react. That calm is not just emotional. It's strategic. People with emergency funds negotiate better. They don't cling to bad jobs. They don't accept unfair terms out of panic. Stability gives you leverage, even if no one else can see it. And once that stability is in place, something important happens. You graduate from protecting yourself to building for the future. This is where investing enters the picture. If your employer offers a retirement plan with matching contributions, this is the first place your investment dollars should go. Employer match isn't a perk. It's free money with a guaranteed return. And ignoring it is one of the most expensive mistakes people make without realizing it. Beyond that, the goal isn't perfection, it's consistency. Around 10% of your gross income invested for the long term is a solid benchmark. That number can change over time, but the habit matters more than the exact percentage. What most people underestimate is how ruthless time is in either direction. Start early, and time works quietly in your favor. Delay, and time compounds against you. Two people can invest the same amount each month and end up in completely different places simply because one started earlier. That gap isn't about intelligence or effort. It's about when the process began. This is also where people tend to overcomplicate things. They research endlessly, compare strategies, wait for certainty, and tell themselves they'll start once they feel more confident. Confidence doesn't come first, movement does. For most people, simple diversified index funds are enough. No stock picking, no constant adjustments, no obsession with beating the market. Just steady contributions and patience. The goal isn't to feel smart. It's to stay invested long enough for compounding to do what it does best. This phase doesn't deliver instant gratification. It delivers momentum. You're no longer just avoiding financial stress. You're actively creating a future version of yourself who has options, flexibility, and room to breathe. And that's the moment when money stops being something you're constantly worried about and starts becoming something that quietly works in the background on your behalf. And once your money starts working quietly in the background, there's only one thing left that determines whether this progress lasts or slowly unravels. Automation. This is where the gap between intention and reality finally closes. Most people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because life eventually wears them down. Work gets stressful, energy drops, decisions get delayed, and the moment you rely on, "I'll handle it later," your system starts leaking. Automation removes that weakness. When your money moves automatically, your emotions are no longer in charge. Savings transfers happen without asking how you feel that day. Investments get funded whether you're motivated or distracted. Bills get paid without last-minute anxiety or mental negotiation. Nothing about this is exciting. And that's exactly why it works. A well-designed system doesn't require discipline on your worst days. It functions whether you're focused or exhausted, optimistic or burned out. The goal isn't to be strong all the time. The goal is to make strength unnecessary. But automation only works if it evolves with you. This is where many people quietly sabotage themselves. They set everything up once, feel accomplished, and never revisit it. Then life changes. Income increases, but savings don't. Debts disappear, but the freed up cash drifts into spending. Responsibilities shift, but the system stays frozen in an old version of reality. Automation without adjustment isn't progress. It's autopilot. Your job isn't to micromanage money every week. Your job is to review the system when something meaningful changes and make sure the flow still reflects your priorities. And when it does, something powerful happens. You stop thinking about money all the time. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop feeling like every choice carries hidden consequences. Your paycheck stops feeling like something you need to defend, protect, or rush through. It becomes what it always should have been. Your future freedom, delivered in monthly installments. If you control the first moments, design the structure, and let automation handle the rest, the outcome becomes predictable, not dramatic, not flashy, just quietly effective. 5 years from now, you won't be amazed by how complicated this was. You'll be surprised by how little effort it actually required, and how many people never gave themselves the chance to build a system that worked without them constantly watching over it. When you step back and look at everything you've just heard, one truth becomes clear. Money problems are rarely about money itself. They're about how unconsciously most people move through their financial lives. You were never meant to constantly feel tense around money. You weren't meant to live in a cycle of relief on payday followed by quiet anxiety as the month goes on. That pattern isn't a personal failure. It's the natural outcome of living without a system in a world designed to pull money out of your hands as efficiently as possible. The deeper lesson here is this: financial stability isn't built through big, dramatic decisions. It's built through small moments of control, repeated consistently, especially the moments when no one is watching, especially the moments right after you get paid. When you treat your paycheck as future freedom instead of temporary relief, everything changes. You stop asking, "Can I afford this right now?" and start asking, "Does this support the life I'm trying to build?" That single shift reframes spending, saving, and investing into intentional acts instead of emotional reactions. Applying this doesn't require perfection. It requires awareness, structure, and honesty. Awareness of how your brain reacts to money. Structure that removes emotion from routine decisions. And honesty about what you truly need versus what you've simply normalized over time. Start small. Pay attention to the first moments after you get paid. Build a system that works even when you're tired. Let automation protect your future self from your present impulses. Over time, that quiet consistency compounds into something powerful: choice. Now, here's a simple question for you. What do you think matters more for long-term financial peace: earning more money, or managing what you already earn better? Please share your perspective in the comments so everyone can learn from different viewpoints. If this video helped you see money a little differently, consider subscribing to Quietly Broke. Your support helps us keep creating thoughtful content that challenges old patterns and helps build a more intentional financial life.